how to go live. You have to go into your advanced settings in Zoom and then verify your YouTube account. It's like a whole thing. And then like make sure it's unlisted, and then like it's just intense.
Yeah.
Have you used Spotlight?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And Pin.
Yeah. So I want to try Spotlight.
What is Spotlight?
A student. I mean, I would use it for a Parkinson class when people take turns creating their move. So I would just click, okay, Donna, it's your turn to make a move, you know, then we all have to copy here, go to the next. So at least it feels a little bit more interactive that way. And then.
Nice. Yeah. Well, how are you guys doing? Yesterday was like a really philosophical, intense kind of, what did you guys get out of that? Was that good for you? What are your thoughts? Go ahead, Mimi.
Oh, okay. Well, I was watching it on YouTube, and so I was with you guys, just like not physically, I guess. So I was practicing my basic in my office, and I really liked the holding the inner thigh and talking about it like kicking a soccer ball, because I had just never visualized it that way, and I've heard for years like use your inner thigh, like all about the anatomy, and I'm like, that's great. I don't know how to engage that, or I try, but you know. And the kicking the soccer ball, I was like, so that was great.
Nice. Yeah. One thing that I'm really working on too is that to have this concept of meio. You know, Jaime always talks about meio, middle, and for so long I was like, I hear the words that you're saying, but I don't know if I'm doing it right. I don't. Am I in meio? Is this meio? Like, you know. So it's this kind of like. And I think that's the point with a lot of this abstract stuff, is that it forces you to search for it. And that's really, I think, what Jaime was talking about in so many ways yesterday, using so many analogies so that he could try to touch on everybody's experience and bring everyone together in the same understanding of that concept. But this feeling of like, I'm going to give Mimi an analogy of a soccer ball. I'm going to give Marie an analogy of like, you know, a triangle. I'm going to give Zeth the feeling of being grounded. I'm going to give Wei Yi a feeling of entering into your own hip. You know, there are all these different ways that we can start to engage the middle. I'm going to give you one more, which I kind of like stumbled across the other day, and I was like, this helps me. So I think the interesting part is that these exercises and these lectures and these meetings are really to provoke you to teach yourself. The interesting part that I'm learning about being a teacher and also being a dancer is when you're learning yourself, it's kind of like that macro micro feeling, you know, like what is going on in you in a microscopic internal sort of way is also happening outside. So when you are able to really open up your ears and your eyes and your mind and go deep inside of your practice, you're able to transfer that just naturally by osmosis to your students. So really practical things, but at the same time, poetic things, at the same time, sensation-based things, at the same time, musically sense things, so that we're able to understand middle and meio as a very complete, very limitless, kind of infinite sort of concept, as opposed to like, yes, that is what it is. Because something that Jaime's always told me, and I'm only just starting to understand, is by defining something, you limit it. So we try to define without limiting. So we try to explore, we try to provoke in a way that gets you to explore even more, as opposed to define something and put it into that box where it's no longer related to your direct experience. So here's one, you liked that, didn't you, Carolina? Carolina was like, wow, those are big words, Kiri. Thanks, Carolina. So here's one really practical thing that's helped me with middle, and this idea of balance and choices and middle, because it's from the middle that we are able to make different choices, right? So take your finger, either one, right or left, stand up and put your finger in your belly button. Yeah. Now open your bunda and make sure your belly button is right in between your bunda, right in between, right in the middle. Now feel your right leg, right side contract. Everything on the right side contracts so much that it pulls your belly button over to the right. And your belly button is right over your butt cheek. And you should find that your other leg is free now.
Mhm.
And then stretch the leg out and then come back to your center. Now contract the left side of your body, contract everything. Your bunda, your scapula, and let the bunda and your scapula pull your belly button over to the left side. And this should free your right leg. Now bring one leg in front of the other. Bring one bunda in front of the other and find your middle again. Right in the middle of your two bundas and right in the middle of your two scapulas. Okay? And then pull with your right side, pull with your right side, pull with your right side, and bring your belly button over your right butt cheek. Now find the middle, be right in the middle between your two, and bring your belly button to the other side. And just walk around, sometimes walking front, sometimes walking side, sometimes walking back, but letting the sides of your body pull your belly button from one side to the other. 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 Good, keep feeling that. Close your eyes and feel that,
I do have a question about teaching this in just a second after we're done.
Yeah, sure. Just a bit longer here, experimenting with that sensation.
Jerry, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
When you say engage the scapula, I think I get confused with what that means, like how you engage it. Am I engaging it down or out? Like, I don't know what that means.
Okay, so your scapulas are, I'm gonna take off my shirt so you guys can see me because this is actually really intense. You should be able to, I'm starting to learn how important your scapulas are. So these are your scapulas here. They pop out kind of like this, right? And you want to be able to have as much mobility as possible. Just how we never let our butt drop, we never let our scapulas just drop. They should be supported. They should be floating there so that they're never on alert. So a lot of movements in salsa, I'm realizing that salsa on two, the tac, you know, the music is the tumbao, the two is on the tumbao. Tum, tac, tum, tac, tum, tac, tum. Now, where is the ah in our body? Where is the vowel ah? Here. So don't try to put the tac in your foot. Don't try to do this. Tum, tac, tum. It's not gonna work. You gotta put it here. Tum, tac, tum, tac, tum, tac, tum, tac, tum, tac. Watch how that changes my movement. Tum, tac, 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 tum. You see how this part of my scapula is changing my movement? So I imagine that my belly button is right in the center and that my scapulas and my hips are kind of like the four corners that help me balance this centerpiece. So I'm gonna show you a a video right now. Get out your journals, kids. Video time. Gonna put the projector up, and here we go. So levels. Wait for it.
Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome back. They've been punched by specialty purposes that I don't typically see in the U.S. These are all of the rings, and these are manually installed.
Okay, look. Look at this. Have you guys seen a level before?
Using a level seems like a simple task. Center the bubble.
Center the
and
bubble,
Everything is good.
and everything's good.
Some common mistakes can cause an inaccurate reading, sometimes causing a disastrous result.
Disastrous result. Disastrous. So there's like a bubble right in the middle. Have you guys ever seen a level? So if you turn it slightly, the bubble comes out of the center. So the same thing. Now we've just got four parts. Our level is a bit more complicated. So if I want my bubble to dance, this part, I can move it around and I can change my bubble. I can bring my bubble this way. I can bring my bubble this way. I can bring my bubble this way. I can bring my bubble with my head. I can bring it with my shoulders. I can bring it with my booty. I can bring it with my toes. But if I want to stay on one leg, I'm going to bring my level to the floor and my bubble is going to stay very still. So I should be able to keep these very still and my bubble stays right in the middle. So no matter what I do, if I'm here or if I'm here, I'm going to line it up so that my bubble is right in the middle. And then I can do whatever I want. I can rotate my scapula and my hip out. So changing directions, I can rotate this, but my bubble stays right in the middle. I can rotate it the other way. I can turn it on the dan inwards, and my bubble stays right in the same direction. I can do whatever I want with this working leg. You see how easy that becomes? So if you shake a level a lot, the bubble is just gonna jump around. You don't want it to jump around. You wanna be very gentle with the movements of these 4 quadrants and let this bubble in the center maintain your levelness, your balance. Yeah? So stand up and experiment.
Oh, here, okay.
Good, good. Come back, come back, come back. Very nice, very nice. I'm going to tell you guys one more thing. A lot of you guys, without realizing it, without a lot of consciousness, you're using your eyes a lot to feel your balance. So remember we talked a little bit about internal balance and external balance? You can take a releve, you can do this, and it's easy when your eyes are open. Really, really easy. You can even do one leg. it's easy. But when I close my eyes, whew, that changes things a lot, right? So without knowing it, you guys are making your eyes do work that it shouldn't do. You know how when you eat something, let's say you're eating some really delicious food or drinking really delicious wine, they say smell it first. So when you combine your senses and your senses work together, the taste becomes even stronger. So, but we can't taste with our smell. The same thing, we can't balance with our eyes. Balance is a sense that's internal. So our eyes can help, but we don't want to use our eyes to balance. And what I see with some of you guys as you're experimenting is this, which tells me that you guys are using your eyes, or looking at the floor, or keeping your head very still. And we shouldn't have to. I can do whatever I want with my head or my eyes. It should still have movement. Of course, if you drop the head forward, it's going to change your balance significantly. But that's why we have these four corners to compensate so that I can still stay on balance. Feel where your balance point is there. How can I make this bubble stay where it is, but compensate with my upper body so that your balance becomes something that's not static, but that becomes something dynamic. One thing that's really going to help you with knowing where the floor is your sonar. So did we talk about this at all? You know how bats are blind, but they send out sonar and it goes like toot, 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 and it hits the wall and then comes back and it's like, there's a wall there. And then it's like, toot, 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 there's a computer there and it looks like this. So your feet are the same thing. Your feet have sonar on them. So when you step on the ground, every time you step or touch the ground, you touch it like this and it sends out a little sonar. If it's really soft touch, the sonar is very soft and it goes, da, 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 da. The floor is here. And then if you go like, goes, and it tells you where the floor is. So I want you to start feeling with your feet where the floor is, and imagine in your head how that floor looks, because you're gonna feel it. It's gonna be feeling, it's gonna be using your tact, your touch to create that visual space so that it can free your head for all sorts of expressive stuff. Because when we're using our head as a functional tool, we can't play with it as much. So let's use our feet to work, and our upper body. Remember, sala de jantar, this is our dining room. This is our kitchen down here. So this is what's gonna work. These are our tools. And here is really just the expression. So just, why don't we do this with our hands? Like hit the floor like this and feel the vibration in the floor. Feel it come back to your hand and tell you where the floor is. And then hit with the other one. Feel the vibration go into the floor, and when it comes back to your hands, tells you where the floor is. And the other one. Close your eyes. See if you can imagine where the floor is. And then softly, softly touch the floor here. Maybe just like a little, just one finger, one finger. And then find those surfaces around you. Try to imagine that surface. How does it feel? Because a wood surface feels different than a stone surface, that feels different than an earth surface, that feels different than many different surfaces. Now trying your feet. Feel that feeling the floor with your feet, and then step. Good. Now come to standing, and just stepping with your eyes closed and letting those vibrations reverberate back and tell you where the floor is. Nice, Marie. Good. Yes, good, 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 good. Very nice.
So before we get too far, can I ask my question about?
Yeah, of course, of course.
So kind of kind of an embarrassing moment, I guess, but I was working with one of my students and we were talking about, I call it belly button radar, which is like
Yeah.
where you move from your belly button
Uh-huh.
to like seek with your belly button. It's something I learned a long time ago, and it fits very nicely with this. But we were talking about belly button radar and like moving from your core, from your belly button, and then moving like different parts of your body based on that, right?
Mhm.
And it was a lead, or it was a guy, and after we did like 2 or 3 exercises, he was like, "Yeah, this is great for follows, but like I'm a lead, so I don't really need to know this." And it like threw me because I was like, well, but as a lead, you need to know how to move your body.
Right.
And
I know. That's a great question. Sometimes I react the same way. So our job as a teacher is not to be very reactive, but to be
Right.
responsive, because your first reaction is like, you don't have a belly button? Stop being a dick and put your finger in your belly button, you know?
Right.
But you have to try to empathize with the person, because as a teacher, it's a lot of responsibility. So I know that the reaction, you want to be like, dude, I'm trying to teach you something really important. But think about where that's coming from. Maybe try to get to his level, and maybe ask him, why do you think that's just something for a lead? And not in a way that's like attacking at all. Not in a way that's, because obviously he was uncomfortable with it, right?
Yeah.
And so
That's what I
half of
felt,
our
actually.
job, exactly. So half of our job is how to lead people. How to read people. I'm speaking English. How to read people. What are they comfortable with and what are they not comfortable with? How far can I push you? Because some people I can say, put your finger in your belly button, and other people I can't. They don't want to put their finger in their belly button. So you have to kind of be aware of where people's limits are and how to break them without being aggressive. How to get them to discover that this is important. So I mean, I would need more information about the student to kind of see where he was coming from. But do you remember anything that might have made him a little bit closed to this? Kind of describe your student. Let's see if you can read. What was your reading of your student?
Sure. And I don't think any of you know him, so I'm not gonna say his name, but
Yeah.
I don't think it'll be weird. But so he's a very like type A, very like analytical person. And so we've been working on like, he's very stiff, so he wants to be more flowy, and I'm like, great, we can work on that. But he always like mentions other dances. Like for instance, I asked him to practice something in Zouk, and when we came back the next week, I was like, how did practice go? And he was like, well, I started taking Kizomba classes. And I was like, okay, because he wanted to learn hip movement. And I was like,
right.
Oh, I gave you an exercise on hip movement. He was like, yeah, but Kizomba's really great at hip movement. And I was like,
so, you know, my first response to that, I don't know him, but if somebody had done that to me, I would have said like, Kizomba is amazing for the first part of Zouk, because it really is like you, we call it the enjoy, you know, like step,
I like that.
tap, step, tap. They have it in Samba Funkeado. You guys know Samba Funkeado, like all that. It looks so cool, but they have this step that they call enjoy, you know, and it's like the side, 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 and we do that in Kizomba with like a slightly different, you know, what is that? Your basic 1 or your basic 2 and side, and we have it in Zouk. Ba, dum, dum, ba, dum, dum, or just ba. Ba. So I would take those. Obviously he was comfortable. My reading of the situation is that he was comfortable talking to you about other dances, and he was trying to show you that he has all this other experience, because maybe he doesn't feel super comfortable in Zouk. Maybe he needs to, it's like one of those people that's like doesn't know a lot of what you're talking about, so they bring stuff from their other experiences into it.
Yeah.
And then maybe trying to like tell him that that's great and that will help him in Zouk is kind of a way that I would use that and then bring him back into the Zouk practice.
Yeah, I definitely think there's like a level of like discomfort in the learning process, I think, because like every time I would bring something up, he'd be like, oh yeah, I do dance really stiff. I need to take a modern dance class. And I was like, we can talk about how to dance less. I didn't say it in this way because I was trying really hard not to be negative or like put him down
Yeah.
in any sort of way. Cause I'm like, great, take more dance classes. That's awesome.
Yeah.
But we can also talk about how to not dance stiffly in
Yeah.
Zouk because
Yeah.
you're in a Zouk class right now. Like, I've
I
never
would
had a
like
student do
totally
this before.
encourage him because I know I come
Yeah.
across the same thing all the time. I'm like, obvious, like I have taken a lot of dance classes from a lot of different people, and I am slightly biased, perhaps, but I really think that the most complete teacher is Jaime. He's a very, very complete teacher. So people come to me and they're like, oh yeah, like I loved your like class on musicality. It was like so much fun. But for technical stuff, I went to like Val and Vanessa, and I'm like my first reaction is just like, you did not really understand the musicality class because there was so much technique there. But you can't say that. You have to be like,
Right.
yeah, like, you know what? Val and Vanessa are incredible. Her head movement, and I love her hair. You know what I'm saying? Like, find a way to bring them into the experience that you have. You know, you can say whatever, but just finding ways to bring people in as opposed to like, because people will say the
Yeah.
craziest things. I mean, people will say to me like things about, you know, ballet that they think that I haven't taken ballet for the last 30 years. Like, you know what I'm saying? And I just want to be like, that's not at all the case, not at all. But you can't. You got to be like, you know what? That has been your experience, and my experience has been different. But I'm gonna empathize with your experience, and I think that's the greatest part about being a teacher is that you're able to go back to that level where that person was, whether it's at a very basic level where they're, you know, feeling some insecurities, where they're trying to understand something new, where they're probably full of doubt, and they need somebody to just kind of take their hand and tell them, you know what? This is my experience, and your experience is also very valid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're validating them. I hear what you're saying, Carrie. I think that's true. Like validating them and including what they're saying, as opposed to it being like a hard redirect that'll make them feel, you know, a little bit like closed out or something. I
Yeah.
like what you said.
Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
also putting yourself in the situation, I always try to imagine what it would be like to be Zeth. Like, I put myself in his body, in his life. I don't know his life, everything about it, but I'm going to try to imagine by looking at his body and by reading his movements, how he's feeling about that, and see if from my experience, I can give something from my experience to help him. Because like Jaime said, I am not your best teacher. Your best teacher is yourself. And the only thing that I have beyond what you guys have is a different experience. And the past few years, getting to really just immerse myself in Jaime's methodology, it's been incredible. It's been really incredible. And I want to be able to share that with as many people as possible, but in a way that they're asking for it, that I'm not putting it on them. If you notice, when Jaime first starts with any kind of regular class or even a workshop, have you heard him say, do you guys want to dance well, very well, or more or less? How many of you guys have heard that? Yeah. So at first you're like, haha, that's cute. Like, that's a joke. But then you start realizing what he was asking for was consent. And consent is so important. So when you guys say, I want to dance really well, you have consented to his highly critical eye that you really want to dance well. And I think that's something that the world struggles with, especially the dance world, is this thing about consent. It's very important that the person that you're trying to teach wants to learn, because if they don't want to learn, there's nothing that you can do that's going to bring them onto your journey. So the more that you can ask, that's why Jaime always says, here's another phrase that you guys think is so banal, but it's not. It's a magic phrase. Com charme ou sem charme? How many guys of you have heard that one? With charm or without? Right? Because that is you saying, I want, it is important to me to be charming. Because every time that you say com charme, you guys are developing a poetry inside your bodies. You're not doing it in a cold, structured, rigid, in a box correct sort of way. You're already opening yourself up to this world that's a little bit fuller, that's a little bit more open, that's a little bit freer, that's full of poetry. So he tells a story sometimes about one of our students. I don't think he's told it to you guys yet, but another thing that he uses a lot is storytelling. Storytelling is such a great way to bring somebody into your experience, because that's what happened to you. You're not telling them, do this. You're telling them, this is what happened to me. And bringing fantastic, imaginative, crazy images. You guys have heard his story about Foho, right? The vampires in Foho. Oh my God, these are brilliant. And then I'll show you some examples. I'm getting off track, but this is a really interesting subject. I am not like as organized as he is, so I have to like write things down. So I'm like Foho, bachata. Okay, so the Foho story and con charme, and then I'll come back to con charme. So didactic tool of storytelling. Didactic tool of storytelling is very, very important because it's talking about your experience. He always tells the story of forró. You guys know what forró is? It's like a Brazilian dance. It's kind of like the Brazilian cumbia. It's super fun. And he says that there's an official story and an unofficial story. So the official story is that in Brazil, you know, when Brazil was still being colonized, they brought a bunch of European engineers to work on a railroad that went across Brazil and went through the Nordeste, the northwest of Brazil, where forró started in Recife. And there was a place that everybody could dance together. These are very different backgrounds, very different social classes, you know, so these like kind of very well-educated European engineers came over, and then there were like the local people that were just dancing, and the engineers wanted to hang out and like dance, you know. So there was a place that everybody mixed together. It didn't matter, you know, what color you were, what race you were, what age you were, what social class you were, what language you spoke. It didn't even matter. Everybody got together and they danced this simple dance that became known as forró, because the Brazilians were copying the English people, and the English people said, this is a place for all. And the Brazilians started calling it forró, for all. So it was a very inclusive environment, just like a lot of the dances, you know, they became this mixture of all sorts of different cultures and a place that was really democratic. If you know how to dance well, people will dance with you. So that's the official story. Now, the unofficial story starts here. So this news arrived in Transylvania. And at this time, the vampires were being extremely hunted. They were being hunted. They weren't allowed to go out. People were putting garlic on all of the doorsteps. There were crucifixes everywhere. And you know, vampires love balls. They love dances. And nobody was letting them go to the dance. Nobody was letting them go to any parties. So this news arrived in Transylvania. And one of the vampires said, you know, there's a place in Brazil, in the northwest of Brazil, that is for all. And the vampires were like, for all? I mean, even vampires? And he was like, yeah, even vampires. So a pack of vampires started flying over. And Jaime goes like this. And they flew across the ocean and they landed in the northwest. And they came to this place and they started dancing, and the vampire said, no biting. We want to stay here. This is our baile. So no biting. Everybody control yourself. So what they did, and it's hard to show this with one person, but he grabs the you know, he takes me and he's like, so the vampires would go and pick up the girls to dance and get really close to their necks. But just as they were about to bite, they just remembered, I gotta dance. And so they would dance really like, kind of crazy, you know, just like trying to dance, and then they would get close and try to get close to the neck and then dance again. And that's why the true forró in the northwest, they dance really close, like you almost looking at the person's neck, and then you got to dance really furiously to try to get it out. And Jaime always says, and the women, the girls that danced in the forró, they liked the vampires so much better, because who are you gonna like more? This like English dude who's just kind of like, you know, or the vampire that's all like, And he'll show you the difference, and everybody just laughs, and you'll never forget that. And then you watch, and the people understand it. So let me tell you, I did the same thing for my ballet class. You guys know the official story of ballet, that in the 14th century, King Louis XIV started putting together these grand balls. That's why it's called ballet, from the word ball. And he was showing off the grandeur of the French court. So that's the official story. The unofficial story is that there was this the first Italian ballet master was the message didn't get to the real Italian master. It got to his assistant, who wasn't really well educated, and was like, dude, I'm going to Versailles. This is going to be awesome. So he goes to Versailles and he shows up and he's like, yes, I am the Italian master. Let's go. But he doesn't have the same education, and he doesn't know how to speak French. So all he has is a small dictionary of verbs. So he opens the dictionary and he's like, plié. And everybody's like, okay, plié. So they're like, okay, bend, plié. And he's like, tendu. And they're like, okay, tendu. And they start doing tendus. So what is the important part is that people laugh and they stop taking it so seriously, and they understand a couple of very important things. That one, the ballet is not based on any sort of form or ideal image. It's based completely on verbs and action. And my action is going to look different than your action. The action in my body is going to translate different and express differently than the action in your body. And that Fajol comes from a culture of inclusion that's close together and furious and funny. And it has a little bit of that weird, vampire-y. Have you ever heard the music? It's goofy. It's a little bit weird. It's a little bit off. You know what I'm saying? So there's a little bit of that weird vampire-y charm. So any way that you can build this storytelling technique into your teaching is going to help express your experience and lead the other person into your experience and help you pass that to the other person, as opposed to tell them what to do. Yeah? What else? Oh, con charme, how you get consent for the person to start to explore their artistic side. So Jaime will say, all right, so I'll show you what viradinha looks like. And you guys say, okay, cool. And then just as he's getting up, he'll say, con charme or sin charme? With charm or without? Most of the time, everybody says, with charm. And he says, charming, sensual, or sexual. And then some people say charming, some people say sensual, some people say sexual, but it makes them consent to whatever he wants. So he's like, okay, I'll show you with charm. And then he goes like this. Viradinha. Sensual. No, charming. Sensual. Sexual. So you guys get different textures, different dynamics, and all of these are good. So it does take more time in the beginning, but it's giving you guys an experience that's much more complete. And what I wanted to talk a little bit about today was these little things that I heard throughout these 4 years now that I'm working with Jaime, that I thought were jokes at the beginning, and that I started realizing that unconsciously we're really passing very important information to my body, because a lot of our learning is completely unconscious. We are not conscious of the fact that we're learning a lot of things. We're not conscious of the fact that our brains are processing so many things at the same time. So it's very important how you pass information, what information that you pass, and just be very careful with all of the non-obvious communication that you're passing to your students. So it's not exactly how you answer. It's not just what what words you use to answer the question, but how you answer it. You know, are you validating them like Zeth talked about? Are you empathizing? Are you being able to put yourself in their position? And then are you being able to bring your experience to them in a way that they would like it and that they will accept it? Yeah? Okay. Wei, go ahead.
I have a question. So the class where we did this orchestra thing, where we listened to different instruments, I was wondering, like, that kind of like exercise, when would you actually use that? Because would you use that for people that like never danced before, and then they have like kind of like a taster of how they can listen to the music, or would you go more when people are like more advanced in Zouk or any kind of like dance class to make them like experiment more? Or how would you actually teach that, and when would you teach that?
Great question. I think that exercise is something, the beauty of that class, the importance of that class is the building, how it builds. So it's very important in that exercise that you do the walking first with the footsteps, something very simple, because that's bringing them into your imagination. If you start straight away with the orchestra, it's not going to work the same way. You've got to start it out right. So the preparation, which is making them walk on the footsteps, and then bringing another texture in, making them walk in the forest, and then telling them a little bit about each of the different types of the orchestra. You'll see that a lot of the way that Jaime teaches, he's half the time preparing you guys for what he's going to teach. He doesn't just say it. He prepares your mind a lot. So, and that's really the majority of the work, is the preparation, right? In cooking, you have the prep is the most labor intensive. In ballet, it's like the preparation is all of the work, and then you just kind of release it, and then that's the final product. But the preparation of how you prepare the person's mind to start to accept these things is super important. So if you are going to do that, I would say you can do that to any level. I really love that class, but I would make sure that you've got the steps right. So first the walking, then adding another texture onto the walking. And of course you can take these and tweak them in their own way. I would say if you wanted to teach that, teach it exactly as he taught it first, and you'll start to discover really important pieces that are best replicated first. Is like if you're making a cake, right? The first time you make a cake, follow the recipe, and then once you've made it a bunch of times, then you can start like playing with it. You know, like I know what the dough is supposed to be, like most of the consistency, so I can throw some other things in it, no problem. But at the beginning, I would start exactly and follow the recipe first, and then see how it goes. And I don't think it's the level as much that's important in that class. I think it's the process of it.
Okay. And could you also share like that orchestra music?
Yes.
Because I think you did already, but I think I lost it somewhere.
Sure. I'll do that. I'll do that after class. Send me a message and I'll send you that link.
Yeah, I think it was an awesome class. I never experienced before, and it kind of like made my body and also like my imagination like so much broader.
Yeah. So I think there's a couple of really important, I really don't know how he creates all of these things, but there are some things as you really study his didactics, you start to see connections and you're like, wow, was that intentional or did he just create it like that? So first he's adding like timing. So getting your body to create the sound as opposed to you are waiting for the sound to arrive at your body, which is a very important step. Then he's adding a texture and an ambient, an environment that you can start to imagine. And you're already starting to create in your head this universe of like forest and crunchy leaves and the feeling that your feet have. And in that, you're starting to imagine the floor, just what we did with our sonar, the feet, but it's slightly more poetic and it's a slightly more subtle way. The more subtle, the better. because the person isn't even conscious that they're processing that sort of information, but they are. So the texture that you're starting to create in your head, and now when you get to the orchestra, your whole body is available for that sound, not just the floor, but it's coming up through your body. So you're starting to create, you already created the sound with your body. You already started to create the environment for these sounds to exist. And now you're honing in on each particular sound and how that's different from other movements. So the dynamics of each of those sounds.
I wanted to tag along that question because I feel like, I mean, I know this is a teacher's course, but I just wanted a more in-depth explanation, I guess. And because I don't really know like if I'm gonna really be teaching, but I was thinking about being a teacher for myself, I guess. But I was
You're
talking.
a great teacher, by the way, Carolina. I already know that about you.
What is?
Because in our bachata class, you were just like going for it.
Oh, thank you. But I was realizing yesterday when I was asking Jaime about like, oh, did you answer Marie's question, that I have like this like really strong need for a very direct answer. Like it's like I just want to make sure, like it's kind of like what you're saying, like is it a middle, like did I do it, like that need. But I also agree with you that it is like when you define it, like it does limit you. But so I was just talking to someone about like Happy Bones, just like in, you know, like, oh, this is what I learned. And then like the person told me, you're teaching it kind of like, well, I don't like, this is like out of order or something, like I have no context. And so I think what you're saying about having steps, like leading up to that is very important. So I guess my question is like, what is the steps prior to that would have made that part make sense, the Happy Bones?
Oh, okay. So body consciousness, we're talking about body consciousness now. So like pretty much the entire lecture, you can just from yesterday, just like copy it and paste it. Be like, I'm going to leave you here for 45 minutes. You're just going to listen to this lecture. No, but seriously, one thing that's really important is getting their attention first. It seems like nothing, but here's another magic phrase that you probably don't even realize what he's doing. Chega mais, come closer. Right? So when you ask the person to come close, you're doing several things. You're bringing your voice low so that they really pay attention. You're getting close to them so they don't feel like their energy can kind of disperse. And you're getting really intimate with the person. And then it becomes like a secret, it becomes like something very just in between you guys. And then as you develop that space, that circular space, you start to develop trust. And as you start to develop trust with your student, you can ask them to do things that maybe they haven't experienced before. So one of the first classes that he usually starts with is this body consciousness. And he doesn't call it technique. He's very particular about not calling it technique. He calls it body consciousness because it's something that's tied to your natural way of moving. He really believes that everybody already knows how to dance and just needs to wake that up. It's part of our instinct. Just like animals, like those, little reindeers or whatever, they are born and then they like 5 minutes later they're running around. Like their instinct is so important. They will get eaten by a wolf if their instinct doesn't work. Ours is a little bit different, but we will get super depressed if our instinct doesn't work. Like we know what is instinctually good and we know what feels good to us. So waking that up in a person is there's many ways. It's like technology, right? I was trying to figure out how to stream on YouTube and it was not working. So I opened another YouTube channel. That still didn't work. Changed it to a brand channel. Still didn't work. Verified my account. Still didn't work. Do you know what I'm saying? Like there are many ways. You can't just stop at one way. It's always going to be this constant process. And maybe you just do it the old fashioned way. Like I did. I'm like, I'm going to show you a video. I don't know yet how to open 2 YouTube tabs at the same time and not mess up my live streaming thing here. So I just like, show you guys. This is what a level is. You know what I mean? How do you prepare somebody for body consciousness? really depends on who you're talking to and what kind of body consciousness they need. So one thing that one exercise that really works is the one where you turn on the body. So he brings somebody into the middle. And this is all different for online classes, right? So we're starting to take the methodology and then bring it to a new way. So you've got to be creative always, but usually he brings somebody into the middle and he'll say, make a pose. And then he'll say, now I'm going to show you, everybody look and see what parts of the body are not turned on. Have you guys done this exercise? So somebody will do a pose like this. Let's say, you guys can't see my body very well, but okay, let's say I do a pose like this. And then he'll start turning on the different parts and it'll go like this. And then already, if you look at my face and my expression, there's much more energy in my body, and that's waking up a consciousness. It's waking up an energy and it's waking up a consciousness. Another exercise for body consciousness that comes from a repressed place. You know, there are a lot of people with you know, not a lot of consciousness here. So I start by telling them, you know, it's not your fault. You learned in school, head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes. Head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes. This part doesn't exist. I don't have a bunda. I don't have my sexual organs. I don't have a trunk. I just have head, shoulders, knees, and toes. Do you realize how unconsciously that does not promote consciousness in this area? How that shuts off the entire consciousness of this area since you are in kindergarten? So telling them these stories, like opening up their eyes to this thing in a way that's not aggressive, right? Because you understand it much more profoundly than your students do. So it's good to do it in a way that's light. So you tell them, you're like, do this with me. Head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes. And they're like, and then you say like, well, what about this part? So you introduce them to the idea that perhaps they don't have as much consciousness in this area that really is the base and center of all of our movements. There's one, preparing their mind. Two, preparing their body for this liberation. One of my favorite exercises, and you guys are gonna laugh, and you probably won't be ready to teach this for a long time because you need a lot of profound practice with this to understand why this is so important, and to realize that no matter how silly or ridiculous you feel, it is important to pass this to your student, and then you forget about how ridiculous you feel. You guys have done this exercise before. You bring your knees together, cross your hands over here, and say with me, no, 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 no. This is representing all the repression. Every time somebody said, put out that fire. Every time somebody said, don't try to be sensual. Every time somebody repressed you or oppressed you. And now say zook and open it up. Hey, and celebrate. Taka-ta, 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 taka. Again. No, 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 no. You got to be able to do that with no qualms. You got to be able to do that and then do a somersault and then, you know, put your toe on your head. You know, you can't have any self-consciousness at this point because people are going to read that and they're going to be self-conscious. And you can't let your students, you can't transfer any of your self-consciousness onto your students because they're going to feel that and they're going to capture that energy. So the more that you can show them that being ridiculous, and it's not even ridiculous, it's just different, right? It's our normal person, special person. There's another like gem of an exercise. So you guys have heard these things a lot, but I feel like until you understand them in a really deep way, you won't be able to use them. Because if you do this exercise with the least amount of self-consciousness, it's actually gonna hurt your students. It's not gonna help them. Yeah, so does that kind of open up some, does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah. And also, I just need more practice.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's what you said today. I mean, again, like I just have intention to teach myself, but I think like to have the context of like what are the steps to get to that point, I think is probably just comes with more time and figuring out what will work, and then maybe just thinking about it in the same order that you taught us for now, and then like doing the variation once I feel more comfortable with it.
So the one reason that I can't give you guys a recipe exactly and why Jaime will never have a syllabus is because it has to be understood by your experience as opposed to understood by reading any kind of theory. So it's that like micro, macro kind of concept of like, if it's not understood in your body, no matter how you say the right words, no matter how much you practice exactly what Jaime said, it's not gonna come out in the right way. It's not gonna deliver what you need it to deliver. It's only gonna deliver what it needs to deliver when you have understood it and then you express your experience. You can't express Jaime's experience. You can only express yours as a teacher. That's why it takes so long for people to get this t-shirt. Did I tell you guys that I was promoted? I've been promoted. This is the color of a professor t-shirt. And I did steal this from Jaime, but we also are gonna have like a promotion ceremony where me and one other teacher are gonna be promoted to professor. But that is like not, I had a very, because I'm with Jaime all the time and I'm very curious, my process was much faster. Nobody has ever gotten a t-shirt in 4 years. It's taken at least 5 years for even the youngest teachers. So some people takes up to 10 years. Some people never get there, but it's a process of being curious and just keep putting more stories in your body, keep putting more experiences in your body. That's why he always says experiment. Let's get up and try it. You can't just write it down and hope that it enters. You've got to actually experience it, and based on your experience, then you can write in your journal, I remember this. I write in my journal to remember for me. Like I write exercises so that I remember, because there's so many new things all the time. And it's important to enlarge each of those little information balls that is in the net head in your brain. You guys know that one, right? Little balls. Okay. Any other questions?
Kiri, how long has Jaime been teaching this way? Is it something from the very beginning he has taught this way? Okay, just curious. I don't know much about his history, like his, back. I just know that, he was one of the leading people in Zouk, but I just wondered, like, if his didactic, his way and style of teaching has always been this way for all other dancers as well.
Yeah. I think it has been. I mean, I've only been around for the past 4 years, but based on everything that I've seen, based on, there's some interesting documentaries of him like teaching when he was younger, and, the people that I've met and all of his teachers and all of his students and, all the stories. He's just lived so much. Like there's just, I don't know how he's gotten himself into all of the situations that he's gotten himself into, but he says things sometimes and I'm like, yeah, whatever. And then like a year later, I'll meet the person and they'll be like, yeah, I remember that time. And I'm like, what? That was real? And he's like, yeah, I told you, and you're just kind of like, I don't know how I think he's lived like 150 years and then stuck it into a, don't tell him I told you, 59-year-old existence. But, he just has always had this don, they call it, like a calling to teach and a really strong understanding of his body. And he says, and I totally believe it, because I really don't think, and I think this is actually the reason why sometimes his didactics can be confusing, because he says that he's like a channel. He like receives stuff and it goes out. He's not conscious of it. And literally I'll be the one sitting next to him, like writing things down. And then I'll be like, do you remember when you said this? And he's like, oh, I said that? I'm like, yeah, that was, like fácil, interesante, verdadeiro. Easy, interesting, and true. The first time he said that, we were driving back from Iguaba to Rio. And I was just like, wait, say that again. And he started explaining it. And I was like, that's incredible. And I wrote it down, you know, and then I started telling people, and he was like, what? I said that? He's like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then it became the theme for his teacher's course one year, you know? So I think I'm helping him to put some sort of, without limiting, trying to organize all the information that just like splurts out of his head. So yeah, I think it's nice to have this time just between us, so I can try to translate some of the you know, kind of genius bursts that come out of him, because sometimes you don't understand. It's so abstract that you don't understand how it practically relates. And I can try to pass my experience of working through these concepts very with a lot of dedication, because I really believe in his methodology, and passing my experience with a little bit of the rationality that I bring to the equation. Any other questions? You guys good? Well, we didn't dance much, but I did want to show you one other video, because I've been watching Our Planet on Netflix, and it's like shows all this beautiful animals and stuff, and it's just incredibly inspiring to see nature and instinct. And I feel like our dance is so related to that instinct. The way that Jaime and I teach and the way that we dance is related to instinct, as opposed to technique or like some kind of theory. It's more rediscovering our natural instinct. So I just wanted to show you a video of a tiger walking, and then I'll explain to you why. Tiger walking. Okay, so watch this tiger walking and watch his tail. Watch his tail. Do you see how it goes from one side to the other? Very slightly sways from one side to the other. No, it's very subtle. Let's see. Silky stalking. Let's see if you can see it on this video.
There we go.
No, you're not going to be able to see it on this one, because now what I'm trying to show you guys is the difference between tempo and contratempo. I'll show you with a horse. It's easy to see with a horse. Horse walking. Okay, now check this out. Hold on.
Vocês são loucos.
Okay, funny teaching story though. I tried to teach leading and following one time by talking about horseback riding, and I was like, yeah, like the follows, they need to move away from pressure. And I got some really offended follows who were like, you're calling us horses. And I was like, I'm so sorry. They got so
like, you
mad.
should
Never again.
You should be honored that I called you a horse, because I think horses are beautiful. I'm not finding the right video.
Yeah, but if you don't know horseback riding, I think that's where they were not horseback riders. And so I feel like
yeah. But when a horse, I'll show you my horse impression. When a horse walks, they use like really strongly one bunda and the other. So they go like one bunda, the other bunda, one bunda, the other bunda. So it's like really, you really see their butt, one butt and the other butt, one butt and the other butt. Now when they run, when they gallop, they use their bodies. So they don't go one side and the other. There's no weight transfer. They stay right in the center, and it's their body that's galloping. It's their body that's going. So it's the same thing for us. Contratempo is when your body is moving, and tempo is when you're just chilling, transferring the weight one side to the other. So how that looks is like this. If I'm just walking, I'm just stepping, I'm going one side, the other side, one side, the other side, one side, the other side, one side, the other side. My tail is going from one side to the other side. My tail goes from one side to the other side, one side to the other side, one side to the other side. Now when I'm running, when I'm doing contratempo, my tail stays right in the middle. Contra, 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 tempo, contra, tempo, contra, tempo, contra, tempo, contra, tempo. Do you guys see that? Try it out. Put your hands like this, and you might not be able to do this to all of your students, but it's really fun. I like doing it. So put your hands like right where your tail would be, and then bring it to one side and bring it to the other side. Bring it to one side and bring it to the other side. Now keep it right in the middle and say contra, 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 contra. Yeah, one side and then the other side. One side and then the other side. One side and then the other side. Nice. How did it feel, Jeremy? Nice. All right. So we can even use this for S's, right? Really, really nice for bolero, really nice for a lot of dances that have this kind of sway to it. So I use this all the time to help balance myself. This becomes kind of like my third line. Some people say like it comes right down the middle and it's right here. So if I want my weight to come to this side, it's just like my belly button, you know? Your tail is somehow attached to your belly button. So if I want to do an S, I keep my tail to this side, keep my tail to this side, and then at the very end, maybe my tail does like a little charm. And then I come to this side, and maybe I bring my tail to this side. Shoo. And a little charm at the end. Ba, 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 tum, tum, ba, tum, tum, ba, tum, tum, ba, ba. Ba, ba, tum, tum, ba, tum, tum, ba, tum, tum, ba, tum, tum, ba, ba, tum, tum, ba, ba, tum, tum, ba. Yeah? I'm gonna show you once with music and then your turn. So let's see. Da-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun.
Comme un oiseau et son essor, je me sens léger près de ton corps. Mais je ne sais pas de quel sort je suis victime encore et encore. J'imagine tous les scénarios où tu te livres bien trop tôt. Je suis perdu, pour moi c'est nouveau. Penser sans quelques mots, dis-moi ce qu'est l'amour. Je te donnerai en retour ce que depuis toujours, mais dis-moi ce qu'il a. Moi
For your student meeting. All right, you try. Tu vez. Here we go. I'm gonna put a slightly slower song on for you guys. Slightly slower.
Amor de verdade eu só senti. Foi por você, meu bem. E todas essas loucuras desse nosso amor. Da minha vida e fica tão difícil dividir você de mim. E quando eu aí eu fico de graça, chamado pra me amar. Mal acostumado, você me deixou. Mal acostumado com seu amor. Então volta de volta meu sorriso. Sem você não posso ser feliz. Não posso ser feliz. Mal acostumado com seu amor. Volta meu sorriso. Sem você não posso ser feliz. Posso ser feliz. Senti por você, meu bem. E todas essas loucuras de nosso amor. Me deu também. Você já faz parte da minha vida. E fica tão difícil dividir você de mim. E quando minha abraçar, aí eu fico de graça, chamado pra me amar. Mal acostumado, você me deixou. Mal acostumado com seu amor.
All right, guys. Really nice, really nice. Okay. 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 All right. All right. All right. Okay, guys, let me put one more song because there's a lot of things that we talked about today. So I'm just gonna ask you guys really quick to give me like one bolinha, because one little ball of information that really stuck out for you guys, because this is the part that the most important is, like the getting it into your body, letting your experiences really sink in. So that you can forget about this stuff, because it's like you learn so that you can forget. I remember one of my most incredible experiences on stage was I was performing Balanchine's Serenade, and it's one of those ballets that's so musical and it's so beautiful. The music is just gorgeous, and the costumes and the way the curtain opens, it's just one of the most beautiful ballets I've ever seen. And we worked on the piece so much. We had rehearsed and rehearsed and rehearsed, and Sandra Jennings came. She was like a really amazing ballet dancer. Do you know her, Jeremy? Sandra Jennings, one of Balanchine's dancers. Anyways, beautiful woman,
know
and
ballet
she came to
people.
set it on us, and she just worked us so hard. Just run it again, run it again, run it again. But she was so nice, and she told us, she was like, the reason I'm running this so much is so that it enters into your body, and so that when you step on stage, you can forget about everything else. You can just forget about it and let the music possess you. And that's exactly what happened. Like it's such a musical piece. Kind of unlike a lot of other ballets that are very like counted, this is very musical. Balanchine was a very musical choreographer. And so you drill it so that you can forget about it. And then when you really got it in your body, you don't have to think about anything else. It becomes your instinct, it becomes your home. So I'm just gonna ask you guys for now that we're in the process of, you guys know this one, right? I learned. Put your hand here. I learned, I trained, I forgot. I relearned, I trained again, I trained again, I trained again. Then the quarantine took me out of practice. I relearned and I trained and I trained and I trained, and eventually it came down into this part here, into the back of my neck, and then into my body, and then it was mine forever. So we're in this process now of taking it from a thought and integrating it into our bodies. So for now, let's take those little balls and make them bigger and bigger and bigger until they drop down into the back of your neck. Zeth, what's the ball that you're focusing on, or one or two?
I like what you said about the level and envisioning that in your center as you're moving.
Uh-huh.
And I also liked the way you explained the part about, because I sometimes feel that, what some other people were expressing about how if there's something where you feel like it's abstract, or if you're not quite sure exactly what the teacher means by something they're saying, and you're not sure if you got exactly what they meant out of it. Mm-hmm. I like it gives me a rethink, sort of like, as opposed to thinking like I'm confused, more to think of this as like, giving me a prompt for forcing me to learn on my own. And, by the time I do come to a conclusion, I'll have a lot more information about the topic on all angles, rather than just having like the single thing that somebody gave me that was more specific,
Exactly. Otherwise, your teacher is going to be like an enabler. I used to be an enabler teacher. I used to try to spoon feed my ballet students. I'd be like, no, please, just do this. I'll help you. But then you become an enabler, and if anybody's watched, like, what is it? TRL, whatever, those TV shows where they like addiction intervention, that enablers are like the worst people ever. So yeah, try not to be an enabler. Just be like, do it yourself. No, you don't. You take really good care of your students, but at the same time, you allow them to space for them to learn how to fly. And at first they're going to be like, no, I need your help. Give me your hand. And you're going to be like, there's one moment where I'm just going to have to let you go. And until I do that, you're going to be, you're going to be dependent on me. And you don't want to create dependent students. I think that's one of the things that's so brilliant about Shainy's history as a teacher. You see the people that have come out of his school and still respect him with the utmost, respect and friendship. But Jimmy Oliveira, Renata Peçanha, Agilio Porto, they're all very different. Alex Carvalho, and all the people that came from their lineages. But they're so different, and he didn't create anybody in his form. He gave them tools to start discovering their own essences. And I think that's the brilliant part about this style of teaching, is that you give your students the confidence and trust that they can do this, but at the same time you give them a little push sometimes. And sometimes people get so frustrated with the way that Jaime teaches. They're like, I don't understand what he's saying. Can you just give me a rational answer? Can you give me a 5, 6, 7, 8? And he's like, pa, tum, tum, pa. And they're like, ah. But I really do believe that it's in the long run a much better approach, a much more complete approach. So yeah, thanks for sharing, Zeth. Wei Yi, where's your little bubble?
I had so many. I think like not necessarily today, but I think like that what Jaime showed us with like the nose, because sometimes I feel like my face, like I'm so into my body and then I forget my nose. And when we did that exercise, I was like, I feel so awake now, and I feel like my face expression. So that was so good. And it was also kind of like, I never ever thought about like following my nose.
I know, right?
I thought that, so I thought it was amazing. And then also this kind of like orchestra, and what you just told us that about like preparing the student of like what is coming, and kind of telling all the story about it. It was like, it makes so much sense. But yeah, I think I learned so much in the sense of like feeling how to dance, and what you said as well, like just learning and then you forget and then relearning, and then at one point it is in your body, so you don't have to think. I learned so much. I need to like go through my nose again, and so I'll continue the course anyway, so I will hopefully it will be like in my body at one point.
And you know what, Wei, one of the reasons that I think Jaime's had so much success as a teacher is because he never stopped learning. The more you can still, like, if you're a good student, you'll be a good teacher. And if you're a good teacher, you'll be a good student, So he never ceases to amaze me with his ability to adapt and learn. And I think that is a super important skill to start to develop in your own practice, not only as a dancer, but also as a teacher, because the moment that you close your learning valve, you get stuck in that level, and you're not open to new things. So the more that you can keep this open, no matter what level you are. And I feel like in my case, the more I learn, the more I realize that I don't know what I'm doing. The more I realize that I have so much more to learn. So just keep going and let it sink in, but then be open to relearn everything again. You're going to learn, and then you're going to unlearn, and you're going to relearn, and then you're going to relearn, and you're going to unlearn, and you're going to learn again. So it's this constant process. Our cells change every, I don't know what the skin cells are, like every 40 days. Correct me if I'm wrong, Carolina, I'm just making things up. Your intestines, like the cells of your intestines every 65 days. I don't know. But, your body is constantly being renewed, And the same thing is going to happen with your thoughts and your feelings and your practice. So I think that's a really great thing to focus on. Marie, share one thing. Or 2 or 3.
Okay, hi. So many things. But I like today what you talked about and asked the consent, right? About like, do you want it charming or not charming? And I was thinking about that, especially because in Zouk, for many new people, as I've taught in the past, they want everything so sexy, but and they don't know that they're so many different ways of still dancing Zouk. And I, especially there's a group, a demographic group, at least in this island, in which they want to learn Zouk, but when they see the young people, they think, oh, that's too, I can't do that. It's too sexy. And I think to give them the child, like, you can be charming, which is just as great, or sensual, or sexy. And then when they see that, I think it gives them the permission, oh, that's still okay. I can still dance Zouk, and I don't have to be like, because I totally get it. If you're 65, 70, that it does the sense of sexuality, or so it's different. It's they express it differently. So I feel I have to retrain or start new classes because it's a very nice group. They do ballroom, they love to dance, but when they see these older, the younger people, they're like, oh no, I can't do that, you know. So I think I like that. But
and one thing that Jaime always says, it's so important, the mix of generations. It's so important to be inclusive, and it's so important to focus on things that are universal. They're eternal. They're not things that come in and out of style. There are things that are eternal. You know, there's good music, and there's music that goes out of style. And the older generation has so much experience to tell us. And Jaime tells, there are a million stories, a million anecdotes that he brings, but one really quick one that comes to mind. He had a student that was older, and she said her husband had passed away, but she always wanted to dance. And she had had a really repressive sort of upbringing and life. Everybody had told her, no, no, no. And a lot of people have that experience. You have to start to empathize and understand. And as you get to know your students more, you'll see their experiences and what they've gone through, and each person has a different story. And she told Jaime one day, she was like, you know, you always say, like, be charming, and, you know, use your hands and use your arms and start to, you know, express yourself. And she said, and you say, because Jaime has a word that he uses in Portuguese, be very careful with which words you use, because everybody is going to interpret them differently. So just be very aware of that, you know, people are going to take the words differently. He would say, do a show, make a show for your partner. Go ahead and do a show for your partner. So what he wanted was, like, you know, when you break apart and you do kind of like a shine, do a show, do a show, do a show, yay, you know. And she was like, you know, every time you say do a show for your partner, I am not able to, because one time I tried to do a show for my husband, and he said, don't ever do that again. And she said, I'm not able to I'm not able to do a show. And Jaime said, what about if you just do this with your hand? And she was like, he said, can you do this? So give them something very easy that they can digest. So she did this. And he said, why don't you just add that when you feel like you want to do a show? So she started doing her bolero, and she started going like this. Instead of just tum, e, tum, she would add tum, e, tum. And she just add tum, e, tum. And then a little bit later, she added the other one. Tum, e, tum. And then she didn't realize, but when she started doing this, she started adding her shoulders. And then she started adding her hips. And pretty soon she was adding a lot of other things. And now she's able to express herself. Now she does a show. She's got no repression whatsoever. And she expresses herself totally fully. She's super sensual, super active, you know, older lady. But sometimes they just need a starting point. So, you know, if there's older people in the class, maybe don't do a ton of head movements. Maybe focus on the feet first.
we don't do a head movement.
Yeah, maybe just start making it accessible for everybody. I don't start ballet class with like fouette turns. No, I start ballet class every day with a simple half point, full point, half point close, so that everybody feels like, okay, I can do that. And then go to the next step. Okay, I can do these plies. Okay, maybe I can check out tendus, you know? And it's a progressive thing, so that it's something that they can access, and that's not going to be like, oh, that's not me. If you if you surprise them too much, if you just like throw everything at them at the beginning, they're going to be like, whoa, that's not.
It's mostly when they go to socials. When they go to socials, social rituals, you know, and they play a Zouk song, and so all these Zoukis come who know, and they, you know what they're like, and and then these other people, they watch and like, oh, I can't. But I think, it's. I'm working on it with another lady that wants to do it, and she's we could get an extra 20 people in that age group. That would be amazing to that without having to do all. They said, "Oh, I can't do my head movement, or I cannot do," all these small things. But again, I said, maybe I'll work on something.
And I think that with this sort of methodology that focuses a lot more on experience and sensation as opposed to how it looks and the form.
Exactly.
I think they're going to find, and with a lot of patience and reading them and, maybe doing some private classes separate, I'm sure you're going to find that the, older generation is going to really embrace it. We've got a completely they call it terceira geração, like the elderlies. We've got a Zouk class that's completely the elderlies, and they're so cute. They're just adorable.
Oh, I would love to see that.
Yeah, I'll try to get some videos of them. They're amazing.
Yeah. Maybe I'll call it Zouk Kupuna. Kupuna is the elderly in the community. Maybe we can call it Zouk for Kupunas, so that they know they're not going to have to do all of that. I hardly do that because I teach basically basics and let all the other guest teachers.
Starting with this, maybe it's just starting with this.
I will.
Go ahead, Emily.
The guys too. Okay, sorry.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'll mention one someone hasn't yet: the horse tail and the horse bunda.
The horse bunda. I'm gonna look for a better video. I wasn't fully prepared today, but I will look for a better video and I will send it to you guys of exactly what I mean. Maybe that tiger one and maybe the horse one, because the horses you can really see, like they have got gorgeous bundas, I think horses are some of the most beautiful animals, and they've got like a big ass, and you can see it's very separate. It's like one and then the other, and they're all like shiny, with their shiny coats and like pretty chestnut colors. It's just like gorgeous. One day I will have a decent booty, and hopefully I don't have that much hair, but one can dream.
Also the scapulas, when you had us go from like one side to the other, that was fun for me. I think mine are usually like offline. I was like, oh, this is a different feeling.
Nice. Yeah, scapulas are amazing. I feel like they're one of the most underrated parts of the body. I feel like they're so beautiful, and they give, because they connect so closely to the spine, they influence your movement incredibly. So yeah, just enjoy that. Nice. Carolina.
I like so two things. So one thing, I think I just like the mental setup, that I don't think I really fully appreciated until like yesterday when something he said yesterday, I forget, but that it was like more poetic or something. And then I felt kind of like bad because I was like, oh yeah, like I'm totally not appreciating the depth of that answer. So I think like setting it up and then like meeting people at where they're at to like be able to hear that message is good. And then the second thing is like, it's still like my need for like a very concrete thing. So the belly button thing is really helpful because it's like, oh yeah, clearly I'm in my middle. And then yeah, clearly I'm on my right side. So I like that. What's that?
Nice. Amor, Jaime, estamos ainda terminando aqui. Oi, Manuel. Oi, Edna. Estoy aquí con nuestros alumnos. Jaime is in Recife right now. He's flying. So, eu vou te chamar em 5 minutos. Pode ser? Beijo. Tchau, Edna. So, we were just talking actually about, we are thinking about buying a property in Recife, and that's like close to the beach, and it's got like coconut trees and stuff on it, and building a little house there so that we can just keep our online classes going and then have like crazy, super fun retreats. And yeah, you guys are all invited. So he's going to see his mom. His mom is turning like 87 or something, and checking out this property, and we may be moving to like a coconut farm. Woohoo! Sorry, Carolina. But yeah, I really like, and what you said was like, also, we talked about this last night, because I was like, Johnny, how did you turn that around? Because Carolina was literally just feeling like, yeah, you didn't answer the question. And he was like, and I was like, how did you like revert that? Because he didn't say anything that was like, because I would have been like, yo, Carolina, like, you just like mess with my style. Like I was just like on a roll and you're just like, cut me, you know? But he didn't. He was just kind of like, he was like, you know, that's a really nice reflection of like the rational thinking that you have, which is amazing and which makes you an incredible doctor and like awesome at organizing things. But it's also a little bit incomplete when it comes to dancing. And that's why he keeps giving you what you're not comfortable with, which is like this poetic kind of abstract sense of, you know, what he thinks that you need is not what you want. But it's very indicative of the type of person that you are and the type of new things that he wants to awaken in the very rational space that you are.
I know I wasn't trying to be rude, but I was just like, well, I feel like I just need to ask that question. Tell him sorry.
No, it was great. It was great. And that's the beauty of it is like, I think that as you become more experienced with all of your students and have more experiences like this, you're able to empathize. Like he was with you the whole time. He understood where you were coming from. Totally. There's no need to apologize for any questions, you know? And it was just so funny to me because you guys are so different. Like he's so like, you know, like out there and you're just like, did you answer the question? But I love you so much, Carolina. You're the best. And you are opening up in a really beautiful way in your dancing and your body. And yeah, you look really beautiful. Jeremy, talk to me.
I think the biggest thing for me is the sort of answering questions or addressing things slightly indirectly to sort of short circuit the directness. Because like as a student, I really focus heavily on like, give me the direct answer, give me the give me the science, give me the mechanics, because that really works for me.
Yeah.
But then it doesn't work for every student that I have. So like remembering that the answer that I have might not be the answer they need.
Right.
And like the solution might come from different words. It might come from a different angle. Like I actually had a moment teaching when I remembered Jaime while it was happening. Like I was teaching a sort of intro class for a group of people. Most of them had not really ever done Zouk before. And there was this one guy, we were just doing like basic, and then Virginia, really simple, just Virginia back to basic, Virginia back to basic. And he was struggling so hard with his feet. Like he couldn't get his feet to go in the right place. And he was just like really frustrated. He was really struggling. And he was like, teacher, please help me with this. And I was like, okay, come here. And so I brought him out into the middle and I was like, lead me in Virginia. And he immediately walked up to me and he was like this. And I was like, what's so interesting down there? I'm up here. And then he just looked at me and he did the feet perfect.
Yeah.
Like I didn't have to correct him. He was so focused and so his posture was all messed up because he was looking down. And like, I didn't actually have to address any of the technique. I was just like, why are you so concerned about it? And that's all he actually needed. His problem wasn't that his feet were wrong. His problem was that he was not paying attention to his partner.
Right. Amazing. Yeah. So I always call that like looking at the cause and not the symptom. Like you want to correct the feet, but the feet were just a symptom. And you want to really get to the cause. And the cause was either maybe he was timid or maybe he didn't trust his balance or maybe he was, like a lot of different things, but just lifting the eyes for him is going to solve his feet. So I think that's really great. Congratulations.
Yeah.
It feels amazing, doesn't it? When you can see something that another person doesn't see and help them wake up to a new reality. And it's the people that it's the hardest for that really need us the most. So you probably have no idea how much that meant to him, how much he like went home and felt good about himself because that was such a challenge for him. So we are very blessed to be able to teach and be able to help people and help ourselves and can, spread this amazing art of dance through all of our students and all of our partners and all of our colleagues and things. So, but at the same time, it is a really big responsibility, just like Spider-Man said. So with great power comes great responsibility. So I hope you guys enjoy
Uncle
it.
Ben said that.
Oh, Uncle Ben. Uncle Ben. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Spider-Man didn't say that. But you know what I mean. All right, guys. Well, it's been really fun seeing you and looking forward to seeing you. You're so cute, Carolina. Looking forward to seeing you next Saturday, and we will be starting officially the next course next Saturday, module 2 next Saturday. So I sent you the YouTube link here, and I'll put it on the WhatsApp as well. And yeah, any questions, any concerns? I did make the group, so I do need to add some people, but we do have a WhatsApp group, and now we have a Facebook group, and I'm streaming on YouTube. So yay, Kiri and her technology. Yes. Dun, 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 dun. All right, guys. Love you guys. Bye. Did I get to everybody? Did everybody say, Tanya, did you want to say something? I'm sorry, I didn't even ask you.
I love the just the talk of being poetic. That's really honestly something I've never heard before from any of my teachers. Like they tell you, you know, use your arm this way in this exact manner, but they never really talk about, you know, the feelings behind everything that I think are so key to everything. So I've really appreciated that about all this.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, I was very kind of coming from ballet, very like, I need to get this right at the beginning too. And now I'm really enjoying that new freedom to express a little bit more, to find poetry in everything. So yeah, look for poetry in your daily life, look for poetry in the music that you listen to, in the food that you eat, in the relationships that you have, in the way that you move your body, and in the way that you choose to dress, or the smell outside, or, you know, there's poetry everywhere if you look for it. And finding the beauty in every little thing is what a true artist can really bring. So nice, Tanya. I like it. Mimi, did I ask you? Did you talk? I'm so sorry, Mimi. You're like right in the center. So somehow I felt like I started with you, but I didn't. I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
Like I asked, sorry. I asked like a bunch of questions earlier, so I was like, oh
no, but that doesn't take away your little balls of information. I'm so sorry.
No, that's fine. I think one of my biggest takeaways was the empathy thing. It's like one of those things that you learn and then you forget and then you relearn and then you forget, and just slowly it'll get in there. But yeah, like in that moment, not reacting but responding. And I think I was watching again through YouTube yesterday, and when Carolina asked that question, I was like, oh shoot.
Damn.
Great question, because it was like she was responding. It was like such a genuine question. It was like, did you answer the question? Like I didn't understand, right? Or I don't remember what exactly she said. And again, his response was so genuine. It was just like, it didn't like, I didn't think he was upset or anything. And I think that's such a great model for just truly empathizing with your students. And when they have an issue, like it's not against you. It's not, it's for them. It's something they're experiencing, and really just honing in on that. I love that. I think I'm going to really ponder that one for a while.
Yeah. And just like replay Jaime's face like over and over. Did you answer the question? No, I didn't, Carolina.
You know, I was worried. I was gonna be like, were you paying attention? Because I clearly answered the question.
No, great. Like provoke him. He loves to be provoked. He loves it.
Such a good moment. Thank you for that, Carolina, because that was amazing.
That was brilliant. You guys are great. Loved it. All right. Well, thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you guys on Saturday. And it's such a pleasure to spend the weekend with you guys. I love it.
This is awesome, Carrie. Thank you.
Thanks, Seth. Thanks, Wei.
Hello.
Jeremy, Carolina, Tanya, Vivi. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.